There are two questions that I thought of during the week that I wanted to ask you guys. This first one was actually brought to mine and Zach's attention at Fanaticon by the photographer. I think his name was Tim Skipper or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a cool name.
I know. Has the popularity of nerdy things such as comic books, video games, comic book movie stuff hurt the reputation of nerds and these said nerdy things, being that back in the day, if you liked Spider-Man or Batman, you were kind of an outcast, whereas now you get embraced because I think it's especially with the movies has really brought nerddom into the mainstream. So does it kind of hurt, I guess, the credibility of these things because it doesn't seem like an exclusive club anymore?
Go ahead, Zach. You take this one.
I think it's actually helping the culture of nerdom, per se. We're being more accepted, more people are getting into it. Yes, they're not as hardcore as some others are. You know, they won't be able to recite the Green Lantern Oath or tell where Batman had been trained or anything like that, but they'll be more accepting, and you can actually wear a Batman shirt to school, or you can talk about Dragon Ball Z and people in your class, well, maybe not, but things are being more mainstreamed for a reason, and people are buying it. They eat the mess out of it. Look at Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It was, eaten up like chocolate ice cream.
Now I want ice cream.
Exactly. I just shocked you.
I agree in the sense that it's more widely accepted now, so that definitely doesn't hurt. The one thing that annoys me about this is the nerd hipsters.
What do you mean?
The ones that will criticize other people. When somebody says, hey, I'm a fan of Lord of the Rings, and they'll criticize them for not knowing anything about the canon or not reading the books just because they watched the movies. Because there are those kind of people now, and they
True.
wouldn't have been, back in the day. But that's going to happen with anything that becomes popular. That's going to happen. But otherwise, I do agree, and I think that the fact that it's more widely accepted, it helps literally everyone.
Zach, your explanation made me think of something. Comic books and video games have become a lot more mainstream and openly accepted, but I don't feel that way about anime. I still feel like it's still kind of its own little niche. Like it hasn't really made it into the mainstream yet.
Yeah, anime is more of as a term, as a, quote, a phrase, redheaded stepchild of it all. Anime is looked on as...
It was pretty much the latest to come into it, right?
It's been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're considering nerdy things like comic books were first, video games came before it. So I mean, it is the last thing to come in. And honestly, I don't know if it ever will be as big as everything else because...
Where it's made mostly in Japan.
Yeah.
And when you look at what has really made a lot of these things popular, like comic books, like all of these things, it kind of always goes back to movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
the comic book movies are huge now.
Yeah.
The Avengers was huge, like we were saying. And video games are going to be video games, but like you're never going to see anime on the big screen, in my opinion. Like
No.
They tried that with Dragon Ball and it bombed.
Well, see, they
horribly.
turned it into a live action.
Yeah.
So that's what they're going to do these days. It's either CG or it's going to be, some kind of Pixar movie, but it's not going to be
Yeah.
anime.
A CG Dragon Ball Z movie would be awesome.
If they made it like Pixar style, I think it could work.
Yeah. One thing, like, you have to sell to the U.S. market to be successful, like, to break,
Yeah.
open the mold. So that's the problem with anime right there. But I'll sit down and talk to somebody like I did at Fanaticon. Me and this guy, he came up, asked us what the Nerd Cave was. We talked about anime for 20 to 30 minutes.
I remember that.
And it was awesome. You know, he was talking about stuff that I didn't know about, suggesting things, and I was talking about stuff that I watched that he had watched. So,
what was cool about Fanaticon, and you were there when this happened, when we were talking with your friend from Troy, who was at the Empire Comics booth, when he gave us the little advertisements for the upcoming Superior Spider-Man arc. With hearing him say he was a fan of that arc made me happy because so many people hate it. Whereas it seems like I'm one of the few people that like it.
yeah.
I've never read it, but I hate it because you like it.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.